This is Byrd. It's the Kirk and Byrd Show, and we've got two 757 Peninsula District Bethel High School legends. Welcome to the show, Rodney Howard and Carl Barkers.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to be here.
Yep.
Two class of '85 Bethel Bruins, definitely in the heyday of Bethel and high school football on the Peninsula District. Guys, I really appreciate you joining the show. Kirk, this is another episode where you might as well just take minutes or something. I don't know, go get a coffee.
That's right.
But these are two guys who, when I was a sophomore, they were seniors on a team that was loaded. When I look back and have perspective, and we'll get into it, man, that class of '85 was loaded. And so when I look back, I go, man, over my 3 years, I played with some good football players. And you two were not just some of the best football players, but you were some of the best people. So again, just wanted to open with that. Again, thank you guys.
Yeah. So this will be fun. I was saying,
no problem.
Before we started recording, 84, 85, which would have been the fall of 84, you guys were loaded. It's just that Hampton team had Leslie Bailey, Linwood Lumpkins. If you guys would have been the Beach, the Southeastern, or the Tidewater District, you would have won. And then also Kickingham was pretty good that year, 84, 85. So, but we're going to talk about, those great years, the great players, relive some things. If anybody has time, do us a favor, just hit subscribe. Most people don't. It's no big deal. But we'd like for you to subscribe. And then, if you want to see when we put out things like this, segments, we put about 2 a week. So if you hit on the little bell, you'll get a reminder. You don't have to hit that. So, but Rusty, why don't we start off with Carl and Rodney on where you guys are now in your current life, and then let's step backwards and take it from there. So, Carl, you are in Massachusetts. Catch us up on where you are and how life is now.
Okay, all right. Well, I've been in Massachusetts for 3 years, Western Mass, little town called Greenfield, Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And like I say, I've been here 3 years. I came here because of a young lady that I met online 5 years ago. And prior to that, I was in Philadelphia for 24 years. I was a mental health counselor there for 17 years. And presently out here, I'm a program manager for a mental health agency called ServiceNet Inc. Mm-hmm. And I've been that for a couple of years now. I have a house that I have 4 young adults in there, and I have a staff of 5, people in there working, under me. Mm-hmm. And, things have been great here lately, since I've been out here. I'm ready to come back south, though, it gets cold out here and the snow. I haven't got none of that big snow that they be getting, but I'm just ready to come back where I came from, per se, because like I say, that city for 24 years, Philadelphia, and now here, growing up in Virginia, where I'm at now is similar to where I was, at home. So, I adapt into where I go. I have my 18-year-old son. He lives with me. He just graduated in June. And he's in Philadelphia right now. Once he finished school, he wanted to go hang out with his mother there for a little while, my ex-wife. But just, being out here, everything has been fine for me at this point.
Good stuff. Good stuff. What about you, Rodney?
Did you hear that, Rodney?
I think he has a little latency.
He does.
I heard the last part about Philadelphia.
Oh, we asked you, what about you, Rodney?
What have you been up
to? Well, I'm still here in Hampton, Virginia, never left. Retired from Newport News Police Department 2017. Currently with the William and Mary Police Department.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
What was that?
Go ahead. No. Keep going. Same retirement system, Rodney.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My son is currently in college, down at Catawba College. He's a track athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Here with my wife, Ileana. Been married for 21 years, right here in Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, joined the grandchildren now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's you know, it's life. Keep on going. Trying to get these kids through school.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that next phase with the grandchildren. So you guys were both really extremely good players. Why don't we start off with, we like to profile people. And were you born on the Peninsula? 757. It was the 804 when we were there. But were you born down there? And let's just talk about coming up, going down memory lane. Carl, are your parents from Hampton? Were you born in the area, or did they move in with the military or shipbuilding or whatever?
No, my father was born in Yorktown.
Okay.
My mother was Newport News. I was born at Riverside Hospital. And and we had lived in off Madison Avenue in Newport News for my first 5 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to Hampton, Virginia. Yep, I went to Macon.
Okay.
And then went over to Eaton Junior High School. And, I wasn't really doing any football. I played baseball. When we moved to Hampton, that was Lincoln Park I moved to. Played baseball, did basketball. And like I say, I wasn't really doing any football till I got over Eaton. And even though we didn't have football over there anymore, because they had changed the school.
Yeah.
And I guess Creighton Inconvenience, he had came to some of the guys, hey, they're going to be in the JV over at Bethel High School, So, some of you guys come on over there to try out, and I was like, I'm not going to worry about no football until I get into high school.
Right.
But I happened to go to a practice or so with them. And then, that's where my football career started, from the ninth grade. And, and I was fortunate enough to be moved up to varsity from ninth grade,
Wow.
Yep, and that was at defensive back at that time. So, like I say, that's where my career, because I wasn't, Pop Warner or nothing like that in football. My career didn't really get started until, like I say, ninth grade, and we would go over there, to the school. That was our practices, and from there, things got better for me, as far as football was concerned. Like I said, I was always the defensive back coming in. And prior to that, 82, when I was going to be getting a chance to, be a starter and play more, I caught Legionnaire's disease.
Oh, wow.
And I was gone for months. I had lost like 75 pounds. And when I finally came back to school, it was, fairly hard for people to recognize me because, the cheekbones, that's all you saw. And I guess I had missed a few games. So at that point, Carl, he didn't want to have nothing to do with me because I wasn't there. Even though I was sick, that wasn't,
that sounds like
in practice. Yeah. That's how I ended up on defense, really, because I always wanted to be a running back or wide receiver. But since I had missed the whole summer because I was out sick, and they had sent me to the Poconos to get my lungs back together, and, I was on the sideline. We was playing a team I think we were over in Norfolk, and the defensive guys, because they were the seniors at the time, they were just getting tore out the frame out there, and I was staying up under Coach Carl. Hey, I'm gonna play, Coach. You gonna let me play? And then he had yelled out to Bruce Shaw. He said, "Hey, see what you can do with this Barkers, because I don't have nothing for him." So he called me over. He said, "All right, Barkers." He said, "You see that number such and such? The wide receiver, he's killing the son." He said, "I know you've never played on defense before." He said, "But I'm going to put you in. I want you to stay with him like white on rice and sneak on." You know what I'm saying? I said, "Yes, sir." So I got in the game, and I broke up a few passes, broke up some end zone passes, and that's what started my defense. And my cousin at the time, he was the starting defensive back. He was a senior.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that, I'm started getting in, practicing stuff, and he had told me in the locker room one time, "Hey, you over there in the position, but I'm going to get my position back," and I told him, "You got to try the other side, because you ain't going to ever get this back." And they never did, so, but that's where my career started, as far as defense, because, I was sick and I was out, and Cars didn't want to have nothing to do with me at that time for offense. So that's what it was.
Okay, I didn't know that about you. What about you, Rodney?
Well, yeah, of course, a native here in Hampton, Virginia. I started out playing baseball down at Mallory.
Oh, me
with
too.
the Mallory teams. Mm-hmm. Yeah. With the Mallory Cubs, been the smallest thing on the team, barely got any time. But I guess because doing the tryouts, I had made some good contact with the balls. They were foul balls, but I was hitting the balls, but it just was in play.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going to a level I shouldn't have been at and rode the bench the whole time, pretty much. Should have been at the lower level, but I ended up with those Mallory Cubs, and from there, Mallory football, and which after Mallory folded, ended up going to Northampton, and from Northampton going to Bethel JV, and under David Riley was the coach, one of our JV coaches then at JV,
Mm-hmm.
and then going to varsity at 11th and 12th grade. Started as a wide receiver, backup running back behind Darren Forwood, who was on your show a few months back.
Oh yeah.
Made an impression up at the Petersburg game. 6 carries, 112 yards, a couple of catches, and things changed from then on. And it was it was some memorable times back then. I didn't play defense. Only played defense once on varsity, and that was due to we was on the punt return team, and one of our players did not go on the field, so I knew what to do. I just ran on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And it was against Kickertan. And Kickertan, I believe they might have called the timeout or audible or something, and they ran right towards me and got the first down. I was playing defensive end on the punt return team, like I said, because one of our players did not go out when he was supposed to, so I just ran on the field. And they ran right towards me, and they ended up getting the first down and continue the game on. But yeah. Carl Barkers, he was one of the fast guys on the team. They're playing defense.
Both of y'all ran.
Rusty.
Oh yeah, we were all Americans.
Well.
We were all Americans in track. Yeah, we had
penny relays, all that.
Yeah, we had the fastest time in the nation and indoor for our 800-meter relay team. We had the fastest time in the nation that year. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you guys were great. But I'll say this. So, Rodney, you played for Mallory near Northampton, and I grew up playing for Eaton. Then we moved to Newport News for a while. I played for Sanford. When we moved back, I played for Northampton. And I've seen actually some of the youth photos that people put on Facebook when you were on Mallory. But let me ask you this. Were you that kid in youth football that was small but super fast? And were you getting a lot of carries in youth football? Because my boy Todd,
no.
Were you with Todd Summers?
Not at all. The first year at Mallory, I was a defensive lineman. Then I was I believe I was running back or receiver the next year. But it regularly, I wasn't a workhorse, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was defensive lineman the first year, playing with those guys, Ronald Paz and his brother, Otay, Sammy Weathers, all those cats. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Rodney, I'm gonna tell you, you might have been like me. My first year playing, I was in 5th grade, and they put me at defensive line, and I played center on offense. And then the next year, 6th grade, I played intermediate, same thing. And I was the kid that I was like, Coach, let me play running back, because everybody wanted to play running back. And so later on, when I got to high school, I was like, I told you I could have been a running back. You should have hit him with that, Rodney.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I didn't get much run at running back until maybe Northampton, when I ended up playing with Inco, Rodney Ward, and some of the other guys that ended up going to Bethel. Came in with some other guys. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I never played much defense till I got the JV at Bethel. I was defensive back.
Okay. Now you had a great junior year, right? Because I know I was in the 9th grade, then I wasn't playing high school ball yet. I was actually on Coach Inco's team in 9th grade. Because remember, like with us not having middle school, we didn't have sports in junior high anymore. And then middle school, we had junior high, so we didn't even get to high school until the 10th grade. Right. So it wasn't a big deal to me. Nobody said, hey, you need to go play JV in 9th grade, because we wasn't in the same building, And so I played for Northampton. I just moved back to the area, and we won a championship playing with Coach Inco. But when you played in 11th grade, so when I got there in the 10th, I know there was a lot of buildup. Like there was a lot of talk about you breaking Ron Springs, potentially his district record for rushing yards.
Wow.
So how many yards did you rush for your junior year and then your senior year? Do you remember?
I believe it was 1,200 something. I fell short of that Ron Springs record, whatever it was. I fell short of, because I was on pace. They had calculated the first half of the season. If I was on that pace, I would have broken the record. Yeah, but then the second half of the season, we seemed to always fall apart in the second half of the year, and those, high 100, 200-yard games shortened up a little bit.
Yeah, and Carl was the other running back, right? When you got a break, Carl, and did you have some injuries that senior year? Because I remember Carl getting some carries.
I had an ankle injury. I think it happened during Kickertan, or maybe the week before that, because I remember I played on it against Kickertan. It broke up the middle, and Randall Pugh was the last man standing, the safety. He hit me right on the ankle and injured it, and I hopped off the field, and I was done for that game. So just an ankle injury. And William Beverly was also a backup. I think my senior year
backup too. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And William was the other corner on defense. He started as a 10th grader.
Yeah. And like I say, we loved it when Rodney would be in there and he had a play. I would always be looking back to him. Follow me, because I loved blocking for me. Then, like I said, it would be time. If you've seen some of this field, when he's going down, taking off down the field, you'll see me come in there trying to block way downfield for him. We had a few games like that, because when he take off, then I'd get off right behind to make sure that won't nobody gonna get that tackle in on him, because
those are wishbone days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Kirk, you can go.
No, I was just, it's interesting you mentioned that Ron Springs rushing record. I was just trying to go back. Was that Peninsula or the state?
The Peninsula.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was Peninsula District.
Yeah, no. I was just, that caught my attention. But, you mentioned someone like Ron Springs, and I think about the great players, the big name players, but also some of the great players that, you guys played with that are legendary. Some of them made it a long way, and then of course, Bethel has a rich tradition. But how about some of the guys you played against? Maybe not, because middle school, Rusty, you were in Newport News some, and but people moved around. But who are some of the great players, Carl, that you got to play against? Because it's so loaded, down there with great players. Who are some of the players?
Yeah.
We know a lot about the Bethel players that you played with, but what about against?
Well, in Hampton, you had Linwood Lumpkin. That was one of the guys on that team. And a few of the other guys, can't get their name. And then with Phoebus, what was his name? Steve Johnson, that wide receiver.
Yeah, he was.
Steve Johnson. Mm-hmm.
He was good.
Yeah, Steve Johnson. Yeah. And I forgot that nice tight end Hampton had too. He was pretty tall. But I
Marcus
can't remember.
Campbell.
Marcus. Well, he went to Hampton with you, right?
Yeah, he was played with me at Hampton. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and just being matched up with especially the wide receivers from those other teams and being able to shut them down because they were supposed to be an all world, and just being able to shut those guys down. Yep.
So I'll tell you this. I remember when I finally moved up to varsity in 10th grade, some ones you're missing out on and you shut down. Ferguson, the Solomon brothers.
Yeah.
We beat them. We beat them. And so you did a great job against, because they were, that brother could throw. Their quarterback.
Yeah.
And then I remember Doxy Jordan was the 10th grade quarterback, but Kickerton had a lot of talent with Dwight Hollier, Bill Boyd, Kevin Brown.
Terry Noel.
Yeah. And
Randy
Ward
Pugh
Ronnie
was
Jones, Derek Steele.
Yeah, I remember Randy Pugh was their starting tailback y'all senior year. He was a good one. I was just saying before we went on, Kickerton was pretty darn good. They would have won the district in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And Rodney hit a good point about us running out of gas. When I look back now, because I've coached a lot of football and just been around it, the way Cos coached was just the way he coached, because he was a man that probably played in the 50s and 60s and coached in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And he probably like that Bear Bryant, we're going to work him to death. But in retrospect, like all that tough training we went through in the summer and even during the season, it takes a toll on you. And I know my brother said when he went to college at Virginia Tech, it was nothing like that. I remember days we had a Friday game and Cos got mad at us on Thursday and pretty day, we started running and hitting, So when you talk about the wear and tear, it wasn't just those first 5 or 6 or 7 games. It was the practices,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The spoke drill, Oklahoma drill, which is outlawed now. I didn't have to do it after JV, but hitting them sleds.
Especially if we had a bad game that night, especially we travel, we'd come home, they'd had the lights out there on the field, and we had to run. We had to run on that field, man. Yes, he was strict on us.
And I'll say this, when you guys were seniors, Kirk, we lost to Hampton the second time, but we beat them the first. And that was the non-district game.
Which was homecoming.
Yeah, that's right. If we had only played them once, I bet we would have beat them if that was the last game of the year. It's hard to beat Mike Smith twice.
Rusty, you mentioned that, but I'm not sure. So you guys played them twice? Was it in the play? How did that work?
We both had
an open date.
Yep, we both had an open date.
But what about the game at the end of the year that used to be the de facto championship?
It was this. The last game was the regular season district game. The other one was like a non-conference game. It didn't count. It would have been like if we were playing Kempsfield.
Has that ever been done before or since? Wow, that's interesting. Let me get y'all's opinion.
Yeah, non-conference game.
Okay, so we're talking about hard practices, the way some things have changed. One of the things I've noticed with kids now is that they stay off the field longer for ankles and things like that. And you see them when they're running around. But I think that that's in the concussion protocol also. They play strict attention, but I think it's better for the long-term injuries, That's why they don't stick them back in. But also, things are a little more softer now. Kids are coddled, and there's so many ways you go for it. Now, did your kids, sons, daughters play sports?
Yeah, my son, he played in college, Ursinus College in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But he had messed up his leg. So after his first season, so he just basically went to school, and he was there on the sideline as just like an assistant, for the rest of his years at college, But he was the only one, my other son, just video games and stuff like that. He didn't want to do nothing, Yeah. So that was it. And none of my daughters wanted to do anything. They did track, young, the little, league track, but as they got older, they didn't want to have any parts of any kind of sports anymore anyway. So
right.
How
about
I
you,
have the 2 grandsons, so
okay.
I'm hoping my 14-year-old would get into something,
Yeah. All right. Rodney, how about you?
Your son.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my son played at Bethel, ran track also, played football and track. Ended up going to Catawba College in Salisbury, North Carolina on track scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the football roster down there doing the 20 season, the season they did not play.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to play, but due to some conflicts between coaching, the coaches not wanting him to play football, afraid he would get hurt, he decided to give it up. But he's down to competing in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, okay. So
the senior this year, graduating in sports management.
Oh, that's a blessing.
Okay. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
So what happened? Where did you guys go after your great high school careers? Because again, I'm telling y'all, I looked up to y'all, and I think I sent Carl a message on Facebook years ago, and I've coached and I've been around the game, and to this day, Carl Barkers is the best high school cornerback I have ever seen in terms of his ability to cover, recover, tackle, everything. And I mean, your technique, everything, man. I wish I had tape of it to show my son, who's a defensive back. And then Rodney Howard man, let me tell y'all how smooth Rodney Howard was. Rodney Howard got a special jersey Coach Kaz had made just for him.
Oh, yeah.
I still have it.
All of us, if you look at this jersey behind me, we all had the flappy jerseys. Mm-hmm. What you see today with the tight fit, Rodney had a jersey like that in 1984. It would tight, and it was like kind of slick on the numbers. And I was like, oh, he the man. He's the man. Yeah. That was it.
Because they were always grabbing his jerseys back when he first started. So they made
down by the jersey.
Yeah, they made it where if you grab onto it, you can't hold on to it, Yeah. And saying Rodney, he could juke while he was up in the air. That's one thing we weren't used to seeing. He in the air juking around to get away from people. And then once he hit the ground, he gone. He done took off.
So so tell us what happened when you guys left high school. Because again, that class 85 had guys going to East Carolina, Wake Forest, Hampton University, North Carolina A&T,
UVA,
UNC. No, UVA was Jason with me.
Oh, I'm talking Lynn would love the whole peninsula. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm just going just Bethel.
I know.
Just Bethel class 85.
Creighton and Corminus, yeah.
Yeah. So Carl Barkers. Well, with me, I visited a bunch of schools, but everybody wanted me for defense. But I wanted to be an offensive player. So I think Wake Forest picked up on that. Hey, we'll get him in here as a wide receiver. I get there, recruiting visit, name all over the lights and on the board. And, oh yeah, you get in here, you're going to be able to get some starting time. I said, all right, so you started school recruiting me for offense. I get there. Once I get there, I was outside linebacker.
Right.
They transitioned me over to outside linebacker. I don't know how that happened. And, I just wasn't happy. And see, with me, my mentality at that time was, I want to be an offensive player. I want to be, and you're not getting the older guys, because when the younger guys coming in there, hey, we don't want you coming in here taking our position. So we ain't giving you no kind of knowledge for anything. And I just wasn't happy, after that, first season. So I called when we went on Christmas break. I called East Carolina, because that was one of the schools that I liked also, because I had a music scholarship for East Carolina, but I chose to do football instead, and I went to Wake Forest. So I called the coach at East Carolina. It was Ed Emery at the time. Spoke to him. I said, hey, coach, it's Carl Barkers from Bethel High School at Virginia. I was calling to see if you were still interested in me. He said, oh, dude, that Barkers, that defensive back that was from Bethel. I said, yes, sir. He said, hey, we wanted you back then, and we'll take you now. So he said, but you got to talk to your coach. Al Grove was my coach at Wake Forest. So when I went back in, I had a talk with him, and they let none of my recruits go. I could see you're not happy here. So, he signed for me to do the transfer, and I got there, I had to sit out that year, but I was playing running back, so I was practicing that. And then during that fall, since I had to sit out, coach had told me, hey, going into this year, you've been looking good out there. You're going to get a chance, to start for a position as one of our running backs, And like I say, as things changed, they brought in new coaches. They brought in June Jones, and he gave us the run and shoot. That's when the run and shoot
He's
started.
throwing that ball.
Yeah, so, I became a slot back. And so then the coach called me in later and he said, hey, we're going to be bringing in a new coach. I'm looking for coaches. And he had said one of our coaches, Driesbach, and I didn't know him at Wake Forest, but I gave, he was a good coach. He's such that. And he came to coach the running backs, because I think he was a defensive line coach at Wake Forest. And he came to do the running backs. And once he got there, I don't know if he had a vendetta since I left Wake Forest and he was there. Just I went down here from there, Then I was just frustrated, didn't want to go to class and that type of stuff. And then by my senior year, school-wise, I was a junior sport-wise. I got put on academic probation, So I had to come home for a year,
Right.
And once I got home, I wasn't there a good month. And I just went and enlisted in the military because I didn't want to be home. So I went and joined the military, and I came home one day to my parents. They was in the kitchen, and I said, hey, and because I was in August that I had went home of 88. I said, yeah, in January, I'm going to be going to boot camp. My father, he said, boot camp where? I say, I'll be going up to Great Lakes. And when did you join the military? I said, I went the other day. Went down there and just enlisted myself. And then, I went in the military. I was a medic in the military. I worked in Bethesda at the Naval Hospital. I worked in the NICU unit there. And I was over in, Desert Storm, Desert Shield for 6 months, during that war, the Persian Gulf War. And, once I got back, I just played flag football. Then when I got out of the military, I played semi-pro down in D.C. for the Prince George Stallions. And I was a fullback by then because the weight had came on. And I had made the Mason-Dixon All-Star team, played in Richmond at fullback because I had 800 and some yards that year. And I missed the first 2 games because of my knee. But, and like I say, after that, just left DC, went to Philadelphia. When my ex-wife had got out of the military, she was in California, and like I say, just started there with doing just different work, and that was it. And I'm where I'm at now,
So, okay, that's good stuff, man. Rodney, tell us about your recruitment and what happened to you after high school.
Well, I was getting all kinds of letters from everywhere, especially for the most part east of the Mississippi. I remember getting a letter from Illinois, Penn State, Joe Paterno, North Carolina State. As a guy of my stature, as a cosplay diminutive stature, seeing these letters from these guys you see on TV is something else. Come around to visit time, I end up getting offers for visits for Liberty and Virginia Tech, and those schools out in the mountains. And at that time, I was like, no, I'm not even going. It's in the mountains. But in retrospect, I should have took the visit, because Virginia Tech turned out to be a good school. I did with Bruce Smith and them, if I went there. But East Carolina recruited me. North Carolina State did a little something. Richmond was on me heavy. I really liked Richmond, just only an hour away. Mm-hmm. And I remember after one of our track meets at Todd Stadium, the recruiter took myself and a kid from Warwick High School, a lineman, down to East Carolina, straight from the track meet, still in uniform, down on a visit. And I guess after they saw I was only 5'6", 140 pounds, they're like, oh, well, he's smaller than they look on film. So they didn't offer a scholarship. And, I guess once these teams saw how tiny I was out of uniform versus what happened on the field, Hampton was one of the few schools that was left that had a standing scholarship offer. And Coach Brown, who worked in Bethel High School.
Yeah, Charlie Brown.
The coach, the linebacker coach at Hampton, yes. Mm-hmm. And after time passed, new schools were offering anything, and University of Richmond wanted me to go to JUCO instead. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to junior college. I just told Coach Brown I was interested and come on to Hampton and sign with Hampton. And after I signed, I went out there to view their spring ball. And I remember seeing their spring practice, watching the offensive work. And I seen these big guys, and I'm standing beside this guy. I'm thinking he's like an offensive guard. He's a tailback, wow. 5'10", 220 pounds, big muscle. He was a transfer from Indiana. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm never gonna get any time. And Carl Painter was there, and a few other guys.
That's right, Carl Painter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I end up reporting in August as number 6 guy on the depth chart, and by the first game, I'm the number 2 guy behind Carl Painter, getting time. Mm-hmm. So that's how it turns out. Just work hard and keep pushing. Don't get frustrated. And I ended up getting run behind a guy who ended up in the NFL when he left.
Yep. Well, one of the things I'll say, this was 30 years ago when all this was going on with all of us. Things are different now. And I'll give you an example. I was watching Blake Corum, the running back for Michigan. And he's actually from Virginia. He played high school ball in Baltimore at St. Francis Academy. It's a private school, but they list him at 5'8". He's probably 5'6" or 5'7". Yeah, he might legitimately be 210 pounds now because the training and the eating is a lot different than what we grew up with. Mm-hmm. But I've seen a lot of athletes now, Rodney, around our size playing major college football. And I think the thinking is if you can ball, you can ball.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so it's different now. And you still got to be good, but if you. I think this, if we had that team in today's football, we would have won 3 state championships in a row with all that talent. But I think
one thing I probably was we had lack of depth.
Yeah.
We had lack of depth.
Yeah.
We had, good,
Yeah. And we had a lack of depth. We didn't have any, and Carl, you would know this, we didn't have a real passing game because Coach Kyles was coming out of winning with the wishbone. He didn't want to go. He didn't throw the ball till Kent Johnson got there.
And
Yeah,
see, and I
I'm running
think
the rock
at
28, 30
at
times a
our
game.
time when we was in, if we'd have had Greg Morris with us, Rodney, that we would have been in some championship games.
Yeah.
Yep. But unfortunately, he was too old age requirement to play with us,
Yeah.
But and I think if we would have had him, because he could run that wishbone, and he had a nice little arm on him, And I think we would have that year, 85, we would have went to some championship there right there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Kirk, when did Phoebus turn it around? Like when you were at the school during this time, what was it like at Phoebus during those years?
That was the transition from Trainham to D. So there was a lot of talent on those teams. Just they didn't have a lot of structure. 84 was 0-10. 84, 85. 85, 86 was 1-9. And then they were 9-3 in 86, 87. They haven't lost since then. But they never had a winning season.
Oh, okay.
Varsity from 76 until 86. So the first year was JV. They didn't play varsity schedule.
I know a lot of us, like I wanted to play football because when I was a kid, I would go to Darlin Stadium and I would watch the guys that were older than me. Like I used to look up, man, because I remember my dad coached at Phoebus, so he knew a lot of the athletes. And I remember like somebody you played with, Rodney, Marco Stacy from Hampton High School. And looking up to these guys, and then I'm looking up to Linwood and Leslie Bailey, and then the next year or a couple years later, I'm on the field with them. When you guys were younger, did you have anybody you looked up to, or was it just like because like I have a son now who's a senior, and he would go. I took him to games, but I don't know if he was really like into it like I was. Did you guys have anybody that you kind of liked in high school when you were younger?
I had an older cousin who played at Bethel, Walter Bailey.
I was getting ready to say Walter Bailey. That's another one that oh my gosh, I looked up to him so much, man. That's right. That was one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Walt was my good run for that running back there.
Yeah.
He had that height and that size, and he ran strong. And I like little hot shot, because of his size, but he was so feisty out there. For the positions that he played, even though, he was like that little slot back and the special teams man running the punts back, the kick returns. And, I like him also.
Yeah, there were some, it's funny because one of the things I point out to people, Hampton Roads is the largest market without professional sports. So back then, high school football was the center. So you had the daily press that covered all the high school games, and everybody was a household name. You were like a star. And people knew about you. There was the print paper, and people talked. So it was like you were a celebrity. And then, getting on a playoff time, they would do the local news also. So it's, living in this area, Washington, D.C. metro area, I mean, you got to do something, win a state championship or all that. But then, there was like all that, going on. And it was just like, I know we sound old, but like the glory years, the standing room only football games and, things like that.
And that's how that Bethel game was. I was blessed to be in part of 4 of them with the 2 in 10th grade and then 11th to 12th. And when it legitimately was like standing room only and you had to get your tickets earlier in the week. That was
out by Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah. Now, before we move on to our non-sports question, I got to say this. When I reconnected with you, Carl, a couple of months ago, and I told you, like legit, like I think you are one of the best defensive backs players I've ever seen. But I got to tell you, man, if you look, and I know you didn't get it or see it back then, but when Wake Forest, because with your size, what is your size? How tall and how heavy were you?
Well, I'm 5'9", and at that time, I went there at 195.
Right. Okay.
Wow,
So
man.
you were very muscular, and you would think, but what Wake Forest did is what I looked later on, because I remember my brother playing at Tech, and then I remember Miami coming in and demolishing them. Is they were doing that. Like if you were a high school safety or corner, but had your size, they could move you up to linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they were getting ready for the next game, the way the game went. So I know Miami, man, the guys were like, some of those guys, they were safeties, and then they put them at linebacker or running backs. Like Ray Lewis was a great high school running back, you know, and then the guys that were linebackers, they made defensive ends. And so, you know, Wake Forest was trying to do that, you know, but everything works out the way it works out. So, you know, but I can kind of see what they might have been thinking.
Yeah. And saying I was number 2 on the depth chart on the short side. So I would have been playing, but it's just that my mentality, I want to be on offense. I want to play offense. And like I say, if I hadn't have left, you know, don't know what would have happened. You know, I'd have probably finished school at that time, you know, because like I say, I went years later, my bachelor's, my master's, and I'm just 12 hours short of my doctorate now. I'm in the dissertation phase of philosophy. Just when COVID hit, you know, I went out and I just didn't go back. I didn't feel it no more, you know. So yeah, you know, like I say, after 20 years of being away from school, you know, when I decided to go back, I just kept going, you know. Kept it going. Yeah, but like I say, back then, not having the upperclassmen, you know, speaking with, you know, just letting you know, hey, even if you ain't playing, you on a full scholarship where your parents didn't have to suffer to try to get you to school. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it if you're not playing. Get your schooling and get out of here. And that wasn't my thoughts. I want to go to the pros. That's all I was thinking about, you know. Yeah. And like I say,
So one last kind of sports related question, and we'll get into a couple of things. So we talked about maybe who you might have looked up to in high school, but do you have any person that was influential in your life, whether it's somebody that you could directly talk to or be around, or just some like role model that you might have seen on television, but they inspired you or something? But is there anybody that kind of impacted your life that you can say that you look back on and you really appreciate them?
Yeah, with me, it was one of my cousins. His name was Bernard Jones. You know, he was an upperclassman at the school, you know, when I got to Bethel, you know. He came out with in 80, you know, 82. Mm-hmm. And when I got over there, you know, he was the one that was always, you know, in my head, letting me know that, hey, you get in here in school, if you're going to do any sports or anything, get your lesson first, you know. And, you know, don't worry about if people going to be saying anything about you, or you hear people talking about you. If they're not putting your hands on you, keep it moving. Do what you need to do. And, you know, like I say, that's how I was in school. Yeah, I wasn't one of those that hung in the hallways too much. I was one that stayed by a homeroom door waiting for homeroom to open up. But, you know, and, you know, that's how I never realized when we got our yearbooks, I had like 5 different Hall of Fame things that I was voted for, you know, and I'm like, who knew me? But, you know, people just tell me, everybody knew you, even though you weren't out there like that. Everybody knew who Carl Barkers was in there, from black to white, you know, everybody knew of you and who you were, you know. And like I say, I wasn't one that broadcasted myself at school, you know. I just did my thing, you know. I would be called Reverend sometimes because, you know, they thought, Okay,
so let me say this. I will, and then Rodney will get to you. One of the things I look back on over my years, like some of my best friends were athletes, but I look back, man, our team, a lot of my teammates, man, we just had a lot of good kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were just good kids. Man, we did some stupid things here or there because we were kids. But overall, I look back on my friends, my teammates, man, everybody's actually doing okay, you know? And that's because I think we encouraged and you kind of, and, you know, not everybody, but some people would still kind of stray off. But overall, man, even people that might have strayed off when we were young, is doing all right. And I attribute that to the lessons we were learning in sports, and we were learning from Coach Koz, even though we might have hated it back then, and the lessons from our parents and older people. Like I said, you guys were not vocal leaders, but I was following you. You know. Mm-hmm. What about you, Rodney?
I would say the major influence there at school was, I would have to say, Coach Koz. You know, I was there during the football season, during the track season, hearing his pregame speeches and how he coached. Yeah. That was a major influence.
Yeah.
You know, I still, to this day, I think, you know, Coach Koz had more influence than the college coaches, which, you know, they set the foundation. So, yeah, that's to be expected. But yeah, I think Coach Koz is the major influence during those days. And as far as players, I would say the upperclassmen when I was coming up, Daryl Jones, he saved me from getting the butt whipping on the school bus. I think it was first day of school, last day of school. And you know, the guys rode the back of the bus, and the new people, they got to get initiated and hazed. He saved me from getting the butt whipping because I was on the team, you know. So yeah, it was some interesting times back then.
Rodney, and I'm sorry, Kirk, for talking too much, but I got to say this. That same thing kind of happened to me. I remember when I first started playing, at least going to with the varsity, traveling, sitting on I'll never forget. I was sitting on the bus beside Dee Dee Van, and I just looked up to Dee Dee because y'all remember Dee Dee was doing that helicopter thing, and he would take people out and just loaf you if you weren't paying attention. But I just remember, so we were on the bus before maybe the Ferguson game or something. And, you know, you would get your stickers for your helmet from the last game, based on your grade. And I was sitting beside Dee Dee, and his helmet, like this one back here, he had a ton of stars. I mean, his helmet was turning green. He had so many stars. And I'm sitting there. I had no stars because had been JV and barely just special teams on varsity. And he gave me a star for my helmet. And man, Dee Dee Van can do no wrong to me for the rest of his life. I mean, I was like, Dee Dee Van gave me a star. Like, Dee Dee Van gave me a star. Bro, that was it. And then the other thing is, I'll never forget, you know, you're a 10th grader and you're in high school. And y'all remember Pete, the guy, he was the mascot, tall dude?
Pete,
he used to dance a lot. Real skinny.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was class of 85, I believe. Anyway, Pete was a jokester or whatever, but he was also like, and Pete, I think he's found the Lord.
Peter Person.
Yeah.
Peter Person.
I think so, yeah. He was the mascot.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
So Pete, man, and he could have just been joking, but I remember early on, I was in lunch as a 10th grader, you know, the first couple of weeks of school, I believe. And he was going around the kids like, hey, man, give me your lunch money. Give me your lunch money. And people were doing it because he was 6'5", whatever. And you just didn't challenge him. And I remember he came up to me and he was saying something like, hey, give me your milk. And I looked at him, and then somebody said, I don't know if it was some varsity, I don't know if it was, they said, no, man, he cool. He played varsity football. And I was just like, he's like, okay, you cool. And after that, Pete and I were fine. But I was like, oh my goodness, man. Was I going to give him my milk? I don't want to have to fight up in here. But after that, he was like, oh, okay, you cool.
Right.
Yeah. So do you guys have any favorite sports movies or anything like that that you like, or just movies in general? Tell us, is there something you're streaming? I know for me during COVID, I didn't watch a lot of TV before that, but I started getting into Netflix and Prime Video, and I'm watching Last Chance U and all that, and Tiger King. But I also love my movies. Do you guys have any favorite movies or things you like to watch?
Yeah, my favorite is In the Heat of the Night, the one with Sidney Poitier. Yeah, them two good movies. Those are my best favorite movies right there, and he was one of my favorite, actors also. So yeah, that's it for me right there. I can look at both of those in the heat of the night that he was in all day, every day. Yeah.
What about you, Rodney?
I say my favorite movies is I don't know if y'all remember Desperado with Salma Hayek, Benicio del Toro.
Yeah.
That good, the bad, Clint Eastwood, good, the bad, the ugly. And right now, I watch the Pivot podcast a lot.
Yeah, I do too, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Those guys are good. They're different.
Yeah, Channing Kirk was something else.
Yeah, that's exactly. Every time somebody brings that up, that's what I think too. He's kind of little. He keeps it, and then Ryan Clark brings it back in.
Right.
On point. And Fred Taylor's kind of.
Channing brings a little edge to it.
Yeah. Did you see the Mike Tyson one?
I think I might. I think I did.
And Mike Tyson has a podcast too. It's pretty cool. So yeah. It seems like everybody's got a podcast now. So yeah.
Even Kirk Hilliard.
That's right. Rusty Byrd. That's right.
Byrd.
The more outrageous you are, the more views you get. Is basically what it is.
Yeah.
Do y'all know the most watched video ever? Is that shark dance, cute little thing. It's got 5 billion views. It's a little. It's a kid
Baby
doing
Shark.
Baby Shark.
Baby Shark.
Baby Shark. Yep.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Hey, Kirk, we should just have an episode running the Baby Shark in the background.
Oh, copyright would pop up real quick. Yeah.
But that's a dance now?
No, it's just a little cute little dance.
I don't know how to describe it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one, so I'm had to look that one up.
Yeah, I had to look it up too. So one of the things we always talk about is what kind of music did you guys grow up with? Rap was not around. We get a lot of R&B. So yeah. I'm like an Earth, Wind, and Fire guy. I love those. I missed them this year in concert. So, how about you, Rodney? What's on your playlist?
I'm kind of all over the place. Depending on what mood I'm in, I can get down with some Hootie and the Blowfish.
I love it. Good,
yeah. I'm all over the place. Earth, Wind, and Fire, Public Enemy, all that. Yeah, depending on what's the mood.
Gotcha. Carl, they turn you on that Philly Motown?
Well, I'm pretty much the same. My kids, they hated when they got in my car and I had my country music on. And I say, hey, I'm across the board with everything, It went from gospel to a little country to a little R&B and a little jazz sprinkled in there from time to time, Yeah.
Yeah, my kids have only known with me. I don't get into any of this current rap. I do old school rap and R&B.
Yeah,
current gospel music because I've said before, like Kirk Franklin, man, he put the hip hop and all that into the gospel music. So I can,
Yeah, I'm a big house music fan too.
Okay.
Yeah. Showing your age there.
Did that happen because you were at Hampton? I know back in the years when we were in college, house music was it.
DC and Baltimore guys were that way,
Yeah, especially DC.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, we getting ready to wrap this up, but we got one last question we've been asking folks lately, and it's this: if you were given $5 billion after tax,
billion, not million, billion,
not million, billion, what would you do with $5 billion, Rodney Howard?
Probably start be a real estate mogul, buy a bunch of property, maybe see if I could get some ownership in a pro team, and have houses all over the world, and just travel.
Yep. So you got money, but you're gonna keep making money. I like that.
Exactly.
What about you, Carl?
Yeah, I would be like I said, I would get some properties and I would invest some, and I'd put monies aside for my kids, and with the age stipulations on when they can get into their money.
Yeah.
And then I would just do some travel, because I would want to get to work where my businesses are making money and I'm at home sleep,
Yes.
Yeah.
Generational income.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I would get some travel, where I could wake up and just say where I want to go this month. Yeah.
I'm the same way, Carl, because I don't 75,000 square foot house. I don't need that. But I tell you what, I would be like, we talk about sports, Super Bowl every year, Final Four every year, the Masters golf tournament every year, all those events, the World Series is coming up, and the tennis tournaments, that's the whole thing. And then some cool houses too, by the way. Not just big spreads. It's just a waste of
space. As I said, if I can't clean my house, I don't want it, And, I want to have something big enough where I could be able to maintain if I don't have no one coming in to clean it, but also have that, where you have guests come over or your friends, people you went to school with, they just come out and hang out, at that guest house. That would be big enough to have.
With that much money, you, like you said, you're gonna have several guest houses that I could just kind of stay at.
Yeah.
Just come on through.
I'm gonna have my antique. I always wanted that 64 Impala. So that would be in my driveway. My Impala, my sports car, and my truck. That's all I would need car-wise. I wouldn't need them 10, 15 cars and all that stuff.
So one of the things Kirk always says would help you out, Carl. Kirk would also get his own jet. So if you're gonna do all that traveling,
oh man,
yeah.
I just flew to Texas and back, and I cannot stand being herded onto those planes like cattle, man. Woo.
Oh yeah.
That's another one. Yeah.
One bag of pretzels. You're not getting two anymore. That's it.
A lot of times I say a professional football, but I think I would definitely, because their price has gone way too high up, especially when you have to build a new stadium. So I would probably try to purchase a professional basketball team and want to own the arena, because like if I had ownership, I own the Wizards, own the team, like bro, I'm not just owning the team, like I'm also, whenever there's a concert there, like I have the best seats box, any event, like that's my event. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm eating, I'm watching, I'm enjoying, I'm living the life. And my helicopter, I can land it on top and then go home. So.
Yeah.
Well, man.
Fantasy land.
Oh, yeah.
So
look,
exactly. Guys, it's fun to think about it.
This has been a blessing, man. Kirk, I appreciate you giving me this chance to bring on two of my heroes and former teammates. And like I said, just good guys. I mean, not just back then, but even the way in catching up, like my conversation with Kirk, I think we talked about an hour. I was in the car. And then Rodney, man, I followed through Facebook and social media. I've kind of followed you and your son and your life, and you've got positive things to say. And man, just when you like something I've done, I'm like, yeah, Rodney Howard liked something I said, or like D.D. Van. So, man, I just thank you guys again for joining us. I know our fans, our audience, just like when we had Robert Banks and Kevin Gould on for Hampton High, like y'all are my equivalent for Bethel. So thank you so much.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah, and thank you for the invite.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Told me, I was elated.
We love chopping it up. Rodney, we're going to be down there. So we'll see.
All right.
ODU.
All right.
75 degrees last year. All right.
And be blessed.
Hey, y'all do the same, man, and thank you.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Very much.
All right, Rodney. Good seeing you there, brother.
All right.
All right. So this was Rodney Howard and Carl Barkers with Kirk and Byrd. We are out.